All right, so I'm going to show you a couple things that are online. I went ahead and put Thursdays and Mondays answer keys here. I was waiting 2 days to do them so that like people being in class, me check them before I posted these. I'm giving people the option to take the quiz in class tomorrow so they don't have to do it Friday or wait till Monday, which means I have to have everything ready and done for the quiz. So I'll probably post both the other 2 answer keys tonight. I went ahead and posted stuff for tomorrow. This one you don't have to print out, but for people who aren't here, I need you to see how it is. So this is one thing for your review, is it just says, you write in your different equations. I wrote out that there are 4 of them. So I did Z and T for means different because you'll write the different equations. So I did it as like there's 6 equations. And then I have section down here where you do conditions for 2 samples or if it's proportion, and then conditions if it's means, because regardless of if it's test or interval, those are the same. So that one's just filling it out. That I'm counting as homework. Now, that shouldn't take you that long. The part that should take you a while is the free response practice. There are 4 of them. So there's proportion test, proportion interval, mean test, mean interval. I think that's a lot to require you to do in one night and turn in the next day. I'm giving you all 4. I'm going to give you all answer keys for all 4. I'm not going to take that one as a grade because I think that's a lot for one night. Do you need to do it? Yes, obviously it's what's on your quiz the next day. But if you know that you're better at some parts than others and you want to like pick and choose what you do, I'm fine with that. I'm not checking that. Questions with what I want you to do for that? So both of those are already posted because some people want to go ahead and take a quiz tomorrow, and that's fine. With one of these answer keys, so I just posted these answer keys. I hate Google Docs. So this was the answer key from Monday night. Here at the bottom it says we reject the null hypothesis that PA minus PI equals 0. So I'm going to ask 2 questions out of that. Number 1, what kind of, will we ever know that we made an error? No. But if that was my conclusion, which error could I possibly have made? What's here?
Oh, true.
So here we, and here we. So which one did we do for this problem? So which error could we possibly have made? Does that make sense? If our conclusion were fail to reject, the only possible error we could have made would be a type 2. Just making sure that I make that connection. And then the other one is, no. I don't remember if this homework was too simple or not. The way that we go back and forth between intervals and tests from before would work the same here. So here we did an interval of the difference. This number is negative, this number is negative. With an alpha equals 0.05, it's opposite of that, would we have evidence that they are different? Yes or no? Would we reject or fail to reject that they are different? So what do I mean by they're different? The null hypothesis would be that PA minus PI what? And I think I'm using different symbols, that's what back to the problems, but whatever it is there. This one's P, and PN. And this would be what? No, I can go back and forth between a confidence interval and then with where we were here, what's the number that I'm seeing if it falls between there? Does 0 fall between there? So we reject this outside. So just making sure that we're making those same connections from 8 and 9 like we were before. All that same stuff still applies. I don't know. There have been years where I don't. There have been years where I do. It kind of depends on time and how I feel with things. But you won't expect to see it very much now. All right, so let's go ahead and go straight into 4-step generic for today. Two sample hypothesis test for difference in means. This is number 10, and we're in chapter 10. If I'm looking at another one of my 4 steps, I would probably be looking at number 8, which was the 2 sample proportions test. Or maybe looking at like 8 and 9, because it's kind of a mix of both of the 2 of those. So it would start the same way like number 8 did. So what was the first thing we did for number 8 in state? So for all of this whole chapter, we've started out state the same way generally. We always do what initially? Define your variables. So for this problem, because we're dealing with means, we're defining what and what. Oh, that's what I knew I was going to say something earlier. I couldn't think of what it was. I'll go back to it. And I would write these the same way you did before. Mean context for population 1. Mean context population 2. I don't remember which night the homework was that was talking about the preschools. That might have been last Thursday. But that one I thought was one of those that got confusing with which one they're calling population 1 and which one they're calling population 2 and which one they order first and which one they order second. And so that's one of the ones where I think doing like PP and PN for preschool and not preschool makes it a whole lot easier than trying to keep up with 1 and 2. But that is totally up to you. Okay, so side note, just something I was thinking about from yesterday. We can do any subscript when we're trying to define our parameters, right? It can be letters, it can be numbers, it can be a word, I don't care. Can you think of a bad subscript for a P? There's one subscript that I would not recommend, one letter that I would not recommend for P. Okay, 2. I would not use O because P not means something. There's another one that we use in the problem 2 days ago, 3 days ago, whatever. We use a p hat something. So would it make sense to do a c as a subscript? No. So I always like to try to mention those because I always have somebody who tries to do one at some point and doesn't think about it. And I don't want you to get confused. So there are some that would confuse you if you try to do them. All right, so in any test, then after I define my parameters, I have to have what and what? So I've got my h sub 0, my h sub a. I get to pick my direction for what goes here. But whatever I pick, I keep it the same for both and the whole problem. Like I said, I always usually use whatever one's listed first in the problem. Null hypothesis is always going to be what? Equals, what are my options for alternative? And then, just like we were asking about earlier, I don't care if you put number or if you put 0, but it's almost always 0 as far as we're concerned. For context of understanding, what am I missing? What do I need to add up here? For context of understanding when that wouldn't be 0 or when I wouldn't want that to be 0 is something like a new product. And if this new product costs money or is going into production, I don't want to make this new product if it's not going to help that much. So I want to make sure that it increases it by at least a certain amount. So like there are times where it makes sense to do it. Our class just doesn't deal with it as much. Tests versus intervals for proportions. There's one thing that we have to be concerned with that we have to know, like we do math a little bit different with tests than we do proportions. There's something in the 4-step that we use for tests that we don't use for interval for proportions. What is it that we were just talking about? P hat C. That's not the case for, so that's saying that the standard deviations are the same, which means we have to go through the calculation of figuring out the standard deviations being the same. With means, you literally have a standard deviation. So if the standard deviations are the same, they just happen to be the same. So we don't have to worry about the pooled concept with means as far as our class. All right, so plan our first step is what? Method. What's it start with? I've got a decision here. This 4-step is going to have what word next? And then for difference in means. Now, everything for our conditions, is anything going to change from yesterday? Does random change? No. Does normal change? No. Does infinite change? So I'm just going to start writing. It's probably easier for y'all to just like start copying your other. But I'm going to go ahead and write everything up here as y'all are writing. But if you want to just not even pay attention to me and copy yours from yesterday, that's fine. Again, stay consistent with the way you've been doing it. Just because I've seen it a couple times recently, and this is often a common mistake, can you use central limit theorem with proportions? No. Also completely irrelevant, but somebody was talking about this yesterday in my other class. They posted the new senior exam schedule because our AP exam got moved. So like there's always 2 weeks for AP exams, but ours got moved to the 3rd week. Because of that, ours overlaps with your senior exams. So like our exam is Monday, which is technically the first day of your senior exams. But senior exams is just 1st period and 7th period that day. Most of you don't have a 7th period. From what I'm hearing, a lot of you actually don't have a real 1st period either. But just think about the fact that if you do have a real 1st period, you might have to talk with your 1st period teacher about when you would need to take that one because you wouldn't be able to take it during the regular time.
Where's the schedule?
I'll show you that. Or just remind me when I finish, I'll pull it up, so I don't forget what the teacher For me, no, so it'd be like not 8 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So like,
Now, I did it again, and nobody said anything again. I don't know if I did this yesterday, because I think I did it in some classes and not in other classes. I missed something.
Oh.
Up here, did I end up going back in this class and doing that? Okay, then it might be my 4th period I want to go. All right, so what are some things that the problem's going to give us? X bar 1. And everybody does this a little different. Sometimes I write like all of one sample all the way across here, and then everything for the second sample here. Some people like keep all of one sample here. I don't care how you do that. That's totally up to you. What also do I need from sample 1? And the standard deviation, which is one of 2 symbols, which is what or what? Sigma 1 or S1. Like that. And then so I'm going to have all the same stuff for my second sample. What else? This one you're not going to have a confidence level because it's a test, but what do you have instead, which is like the same thing? What's opposite of? And then technically we might have degrees of freedom, but same issue as before. I don't like to write it because our Kaiko does it for us, and I don't want you to write the wrong one and contradict it. So I'm going to write my test statistic equation separate again with z's and t's because that looks like too much when I put it all together. So if I am doing it with for t's, what do I start with in the numerator? Where do I start all of these problems? What am I subtracting? So x bar 1 minus x bar 2. Yesterday when I wrote off an equation to the side and filled it in, like as we did this, I wrote a test equation over here. And nobody said anything. So I wondered why you weren't responding. I wrote this off to the side and then use that to fill out the confidence interval equation, but that's the test one. I don't know what I was thinking. So this part is like this. What do I put here? What am I claiming? 0 or some number, whichever way you want to write it. I'm going to come back and say usually 0. So that's my numerator, my denominator. So we know how to do this now. So what's this going to look like for the standard deviation portion? And then adding the same thing for my second sample. So that process of how I got there, standard deviations, when you're combining 2 standard deviations, you always add, and you always have to go through variances. That whole process is still the same. And then so I'm going to write or, and then write the same equation, but just change what instead? Change what to what, sorry? Sigma to S. And if, again, if you don't want to write it twice, you don't have to, but I think it makes more sense. Two more things I need to do. Go ahead and shade it. And from that, I get my p-value, which I compare to out. And I'm writing it as less than or not less than. All right, let's go ahead and write conclude, even though you would be fine filling this in yourself. Is anybody not good in these pretty things? All right, Where do we start? What is it that we're rejecting or failing to reject? Why? Do whatever you need to do.
All right, thank you.
Where's our second sentence start? Have what? I don't know how much I've been writing here, or y'all been writing here. How could I end that? Okay, so what you're saying is right, and that's what I've been writing every single time. Direction of alternative hypothesis and context. Just like with the one I did at home where I made you write more and then we realized that we've already really well defined things, so just saying minus was very specific enough, right? That same thing applies here. So I could really just end with what? Is just saying the alternative hypothesis, saying the alternative hypothesis in context? Yes, because I've already clearly defined both of them. So really, that's enough because we've already well defined it and then different and stuff. Now, some of my answer keys are going to be written out where I still write out all the words and everything. But literally, so it would end with like mu1 minus mu2 less than 0 or something, and that's fine. Sometimes I just put exact wording of the problem there.